Good morning, everyone. It's so refreshing to be back in front of a live audience after what seems like an eternity. I think as we thought about restarting this Ash Growth series of events, I couldn't have thought of a better person to get this started with. Delighted to host you here today, Umang, and thank you for joining us. Quick introduction, maybe for the audience, in case there's one or two people who still don't know about what you guys do at first.
Well, thanks, Yash. Firstly, thanks for having me. And I just realized how incredibly numb I am when those pictures came up. And I think the smartest girls in the room on the row, the first row behind us, who were shouting out all the answers. So it was just humbling to see how fast the brain can work with pictures, right? So what we do at Burst Innovation is a very simple thing. We think that the internet till the year 2016 or 17 was largely consumed by folks like us, people who consume content and communicate in English. But when you think about India, India is 1.4 billion people, not more than 250 million, 300 million max consume content in English. A billion plus consume content in local languages. We're all about local languages. So our goal or our vision is really to bridge the digital divide, democratize access to content, really treat the creator and the ecosystem. And ultimately, we think about it as owning the mind share, the time share, and the revenue share of local language audiences across a family of apps that serve very distinct use cases with different formats. That's what we do. As simple as that. So,
Great. And what actually went behind this entire transformation as a product from a news aggregator? Now you've built this massive content creator ecosystem, pretty much almost built from Bharat, right? Going after the tier two, tier three, the next billion users. Talk to us about what really went on behind this product transformation.
So I think there are lots of product folks in the room, and they probably know this better than me. I think the first thing that goes about in this journey is having a very clear strategy and knowing to say no on what you will not do. And I think we were very clear on what we will do and what we will not do. Right. So I'll now illustrate what that means. I think we were very clear that we're not playing the Chinese game of just building MAUs and MAUs. We're going to think monetization from day one. And we're thinking monetization in terms of flywheels. Okay? Flywheels of monetization for the creator. Monetization for the consumer here is just delivering a good experience. And of course, monetization for the company, providing value adds to partners, advertisers, brands, commerce partners, so on and so forth. Right? So when you think about the world in that equation, your strategy changes, your choices change. You can do a lot of things differently. But if I think about our journey, Daily Hunt 1.0 was a simple news aggregator. Like I said, we had content that came to us from about 600 newspapers in about, I think, 10, 12 languages back then. And we had a very rudimentary monetization of around $5-7 million. I'm talking about Jan 20. Just about 4 years ago. So we were about 20 million users on the app. About 6 million came every day, and that was it. Right? Nobody really knew us because we were very small. But I think what happened in this journey was we said, hey, we're going to grow it, but we're not going to grow it on unverified content, racy, raunchy content. You know what I mean? Right? We're not going to go and do growth hacks that are abnormal, that attract the kind of audience that is not monetized. Right? Now again, I don't want to put down our country, but I'm a huge believer in India. But at the essence of it today, we're still a poor nation. 1.4 billion people, GDP per capita of about 2.9 trillion tells you the average GDP per capita is $2,000. That's not a monetizable audience, right? You would know that. So a guy who earns 1.5 lakh rupees a year is living hand to mouth and is not really monetizable. The hard part is there are about 400 to 450 million Indians within the 1.8 billion that are monetizable. It's like finding a needle in a haystack, right? And so I look at India as three Indias, and I think whoever's in the room, you need to be very clear about which India you're serving. There is the Australia of India, which is, take the top 8-10 cities, about 60 million, 70 million people, really the e-commerce shoppers, right, that are shopping online today.
Largely English.
Yeah, largely English speaking, who get, their behaviors mimic to us. They Uber their rides, Ola their rides, Flipkart or Amazon their goods, Swiggy or Zomato their food. They're very similar to services in the US or anywhere in the world, and they mimic those behaviors, right? Young, upward people. Then there are about 400 million people that live in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 towns. Okay? And then which is what I call, in my parlance, Brazil. And then there is the Africa of India, where there are 800 million people in tier 3 India, right? Which is largely rural, right? Now, when you think about the government of India's socioeconomic classification of SECAB, urban, rural, now called NCCSAB, urban, within tier 1 India of 125 million people, about 70 million are monetized, right? Within tier 2, tier 3, of 400 million people, approximately 250 million people are monetizable. When I say monetizable, they're above a certain level of GDP per capita. Okay? And within tier 3 India, there are about 150 to 175 million people of the 800 million people that are truly monetizable, right? Now, when you add that map up, you're talking about 450 million off. How do you find it, right? So that starts with content choices, and I think what we did was 16 things in the journey. We basically changed our entire feed architecture to become a more multimedia-focused content feed versus a very boring, simple news feed. We expanded the genres of content and explored supply. Supply is really important. I don't know how many of you think of us as what we do, but we're a marketplace. We're a marketplace which brings in content creators and matches demand with supply. Right? So today, we grew this over a period of time, but today we are about 50% of the content is non-news. Within the remaining 50%, hyperlocal is really big. There is part of India that really doesn't care whether Vinny Bansal is sold to a car. They care मेरे मोहल्ले में क्या हो रहा है, मेरे district में क्या हो रहा है, मेरे तालुका में क्या हो रहा है, मेरी constituency में क्या हो रहा है. So I was going to local Hindi, right? So that's about 25% of content. 25% is news. 30% is entertainment, infotainment. 10% sports, and 10% astrology, divinity, women, youth, health, mental health, technology, gadgets, so on and so forth. So you explore supply in local languages, where you bring that supply in. And then I don't know if you noticed this, but if you click a link on Facebook or Twitter or any social media platform, you're redirected to the publisher's website. You do that on Daily Hunt, it doesn't happen, it's all native. So what we do is we ingest that content using tech in multiple formats, and we run machine learning models. It started from collaborative filtering, we're now on routine reinforcement learning and knowledge graphs, where you isolate the content and try and understand the content of the context. And so essentially, if there's a piece of content which is in technology, it could be in Tamil, you look at the words, if there's a video, unboxing video of the phones, you look at that, you check for NSFW, and we're proud of that. You won't find any NSFW on our platform. We think our algorithms are better than anything that Google created when it comes to detecting porn, hate speech, and all of that. And so essentially, it builds a hierarchy of tags. So I understand that this is technology within technology, it's gadgets within gadgets, it's mobile within mobiles, maybe comparing two mid-end phones, Oppo and Vivo, and there's a vertical. And then we built our personalization model basis content graph, not a social graph. And I've run Facebook before, so I won't get into the details. But all I can tell you is there are certain things that we will not do as a company, and that is play with people's data. But essentially, when people come in, all we know, we don't even know who you are, because we don't ask you to sign in. You just select a language or all 15 languages, whatever you like, and you start creating content, consuming content. We identify you with multiple variables, fingerprint you, but then we understand what type of content you're consuming from what publisher, by what time, by what source of date, it's video, it's text, it's images, it's audio, so on and so forth. And that creates a content graph. So, stereotyping, let's say Yash, he was an investment banker before, or maybe I'll take myself, the first thing I do every morning is I read my astrology. Okay? Ganesha speaks on Daily Hunt, super active. So I do my astrology. By the way, a lot of India does that. You can't believe how big astrology and divinity is. It's freaking massive.
Yeah, we were surprised to see Ganesha speak.
There you go, right? So so my content graph resembles astrology in the morning, the news headlines. I then go into reading business and finance and consuming sports and entertainment for the evening. And so the AI then just does matching of the supply, which we understand, with the demand, and then streaming it or providing it in a very low bandwidth environment that can work across all Android. That's essentially what we do, right? And now have over 100,000 such creators. But the essence that makes us different from anyone else, when any global Web 2.0 platform without naming them doesn't care about it. Right? They don't care. I've run a company in that domain in 2 years, we never even discussed it. What they care about is miles and miles of traffic. We get the creator of the ecosystem because for them to give us the content, we got to pay them more, right? So imagine you create a flywheel where you get loads of creators, loads of content, and then you create this flywheel getting loads of users to growth hacks. You keep driving AI to match, demand and supply. You grow time spent. That releases inventory for advertising, which you match, bring in advertisers, and the dollar that you get, you share back with the creator, right? So it's 3 flywheels that you create. So, but you're very clear on what you will not do. You won't get into long format streaming. Nobody makes money in long format streaming, right? The only guy who makes money is the creator, and of course the audience who's consuming it, right? But it's not a great business per se. It's got too high a cost. You won't do that. You won't do AC raunchy content. You won't do a couple of things. So once you're clear on what you will not do, then you focus on what you can do. Right? I think that's the little journey of where Daily Hunt came about, and now of course has exploded into a family of apps, and we can talk about that on this call.
Yeah, I think great insights in terms of how to think about India as a market, segments, and a lot of good points around monetization. I'll come back to that in a bit. But when you look at it, look at the broader business at first. What's the two North Star metrics for you, and what are the top info metrics sort of help you guide you across the entire engagement and retention sort of flywheel? We talked a lot about that.
So, in our business, when we do investor presentations, we talk about our MAUs and how big the base is, the total BS. Just to be very, very open and honest with you. What matters in this business is your DAUs. So what we track is growth of DAUs or daily active users, time spent by a daily active user, and retention, right? Because just imagine that you were the only player, the business is very simple actually, there's no rocket science in this business. Let's say you're the only user on a consumer platform, and you spend 10 minutes a day, okay? And in 10 minutes, you scroll the feed, right? And when you're scrolling the feed, let's assume after every let's say in 10 minutes, you scroll the feed worth 10 feet, okay? After every foot, let's just say I put it up, okay, for a second. And let's say I make 100 rupees on the app, right? So because Yash was the only guy on the platform, I made 1,000 rupees off Yash, right? I don't make 100 rupees, that's only clear. That's not illustrate.
Right? CPM so high.
Yeah, I wish they were so high. So, when you think about that 1,000 rupee metric, now what if there were 100 million Yashas? And what if, so then suddenly you multiply 100 million into 1,000, not so much bigger number. And what if you got the ability to get Yash to spend 20 minutes a day, or the 100 million to spend 20 minutes a day? Suddenly multiply that number of 100 million times 1,000 times 2, right? That's the business. There's no other business, right? So it's about how do you retain audiences, how do you engage audiences, and how do you grow time spent. And then, of course, there's a whole different ballgame on monetization. We come to that, but I'm just assuming right now that you'll be able to monetize that space, which again is hard. So
Yeah. Interesting. And over the course of, I think, the last 3, 4 years, right, you've almost built out I don't know if I should call it a super app vision, but you pretty much have like 3 different apps now. One is for the news hungry audience. Josh serves the entire short form video audience. And we've got public quiet now, which is just going through the roof, like we just discussed, on the entire hyper local news and videos part of this, right? So, how do you see the crosswalk happening between these apps? And I mean, when you think about the next billion users, right? How are you thinking about expanding this portfolio?
So we think about this very differently. We think about it, I think I hinted it when I said we want to mind share the time share the revenue share. Right. Now every user is different. Maybe I'll start off with breaking a few myths. Okay. How many of you have flown Indigo Airlines? Come on, the whole room should have, right? Everyone. How many of you have noticed when you get into the flight, the girl on the flight, the leading lady says, इस फ्लाइट के कर्मचारी हिंदी अंग्रेजी तमिल तेलुगु कन्नड़ और मलयाली और नेपाली और भोपाली और बंगाली बोल सकते हैं, right? Have you heard that, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think the same? Give me an answer. I want you guys to give me an answer. Why do you think she says what she says? Just shout out. Why do you think? You've flown Indigo over 100 times, everyone in the room? Right? And just keep answering me. So let's make this interactive. It's very boring.
Throw a few keywords and just copy.
Connect with him. So I heard Narasimha say, so that there's an easy connect with the audience. Any other? Make them feel comfortable. Customize service. Say we understand you. These are all, I love you and I like you. These are all soft. Give me a hard metric. Okay, that's another soft metric.
Prevent people from not asking questions.
Sorry?
So it basically helps people who in their native language they can ask questions.
Got it. So you're all right, but you're all wrong at the same time. It's a simple word, Anda. If you talk to her, which I have, and I spent an hour with this 23-year-old girl on a flight from Delhi to Bangalore. They finished their service in an hour, right? It's a long flight, it's 2.5 hours. And I spent time with her. And I said, why do you do this? Her first reaction to me was, there's a bias in your question. I was like, really? What's the bias? This 23-year-old kid, I think she was like the sharpest girl ever, right? She said, the bias is you just made an assumption that everyone who doesn't speak English is not at the same intellectual or socioeconomic classification level as you. It is a subconscious bias in your mind. And unfortunately, all of us have that subconscious bias because we have learned in an education system left by the British, which is a total BS thing, right? Like, how many of us want to die with us? That's the genesis of everything, right? So, I was like, okay, can be more. She said, you'll be surprised. The reason we say that is money. So I said, no, this must be a softer reason, right? Make them feel comfortable. I gave all the answers that you guys said. 70% of sales of food and beverage, and in those days there used to be shopping cart also, so you can buy this thing, happens in local language on a flight which is not between 2 metros. When you take 2 metros, it's about half the sales, right? And then she told me, you just ordered your black coffee and your almonds and you thought you're very healthy, but that guy in the back, the Guju who loved my very first son, he took 7 boxes home, It's done, right? So again, let's not forget, per capita, money is higher in Bombay and Delhi and audiences in this room. But the aggregate purchasing power of everyone in tier 2, tier 3 and rural is higher when you compare that to tier 1 and 2. And I swear, I'm not joking. If there are people from Flipkart or any e-commerce company in the room, they will tell you 70% of their sales come out of the top 10 cities, the top 20 cities, right? That's a real fact. Where did Mercedes-Benz open up their first showroom in India? Does anyone know? First showroom. Bhatinda. Right? very rich farmers in Patinda, which is one of the, last couple of years, Latur was among the biggest selling showrooms for Mercedes, right? And I'm not joking. By a fact, I can tell you this, that all these biases that we have. So we did a social experiment. We went to a bar. There were people drinking in the bar, and we had one guy come up and say, I've written a book in 28 languages. And then we had another guy dressed very similarly say, in a local language, say the same thing. And we put a buzzer in the room, and there were 20 such people. One was fake, one was real. Okay? And people had to identify who the right person is. You can actually Google search this. It's a video on YouTube called Har Bhasha. 90% of the people voted for the guy who spoke English because we have a subconscious bias. Sorry, I make this about philosophy of it. But they were all wrong. It was the local language guy who actually was the authentic person with all the claims. And each one had a claim that they came up with. Boys, girls, men, women, young, old. We just did this experiment. And what that tells you is, if you really understand Bharat, right, it's a very nuanced, I call it the United States of Europe. Every time you pass a state, like a country in Europe, the religion, the language, the culture, the food, the way people look, the way they dress, everything changes, right? And so that's who we serve. And I forgot your original question, but
how you essentially envision building to the
how we envision building.
So we crosswalk, right?
The crosswalk, yeah. So one is we look at Bharat in these lenses, right? The second thing that we do is we look at large TAMs. Okay? Whether you believe it or not, 1.4 billion people. When my product team asks me what's the TAM for news, they give me all these numbers. I'm like, news. Okay? It's total BS. Because I've been to 75 villages in my life, and I've observed what happens when someone gets a mobile phone for the first time. I'll tell you what happens. He or she puts WhatsApp. WhatsApp is the medium, right? Once he puts WhatsApp, he or she starts communicating with a friend. Then he or she sends forwards. Forwards are jokes and news. That's news, right? 1.4 billion people have a opinion on politics, on religion, on Bollywood, good morning messages, sports, right? They all consume news. Right? Now, of course, there is a fraction of them online, but eventually they'll all go there. So the news TAM is equal to the population of India. That's the reality, right? So news is a great way to bring people in. And then, of course, you serve them more. The audiences are typically 18 and above. On our app, like in UP, for instance, I don't know how many of you are from UP, but traditionally, in UP, a very big deal is to get a government job. Okay? So people read the feed, not the article, just the headlines in Hindi, just to get a government job in the general knowledge section, right? So there are very big nuances across the region. So one is we notice that this is an 18 to 25 to 30 to 40 kind of an audience. The China app ban gave us a moment in time opportunity to launch Josh, right? Josh is now at over 75 million AUs, daily hunt is crossed 110. I'm not mentioning MAUs because the MAUs are double, but we track the AUs as I said, right? Josh gives us the ability to get to a younger audience, right? And our goal is very simple. We're building the Instagram profile. Again, I'll give you an anecdote. My biggest failure, what I considered in Facebook was, while India became the largest user market in the world for Facebook, to Instagram, we were at 60 odd million. We never grew all of that. And the insight came to me from my driver. So my driver got a job in Dubai where his friend had a car agency. There was fancy limos to drive between Abu Dhabi and Dubai. So actually, he left as a young boy. So he sent me a request on LinkedIn. Right? I'm like, dude, like, you're 24. Why didn't you send me an Instagram? So I'll speak in Hindi for the next few sentences, so it's more active. So he said, Sir, आप कितना कमाते हैं? मैंने बोला, ठीक कमाता हूँ. I'm fine. So he said, नहीं आप मानो कि आप महीने का 1 लाख रुपए कमाते हैं और मैं आपको एक शानदार 7-star होटल में ड्राइव करूँगा, आप एक पार्टी में जाए और उस पार्टी में 10,000 लोग जिनकी तनख्वाह 1 करोड़ महीने की, आपको कैसा लगेगा? didn't know how to answer this. I said, देखो अजीब लगेगा, right? I'll feel a little odd. I'll feel ये मेरे लोग नहीं है, ये मेरे महफिल नहीं है. I'll feel awkward. I'll feel out of place, right? He said that's how I feel on Instagram. Because and it just hit me because he says it's so high end. It's not even aspirational. It's intimidating, right? It's fancy food, fancy fashion, fancy travel, fancy restaurants. Everything's fancy. It's very high-end imagery. Mera khana nahi, mera wo nahi. So that's what we've solved for in Growth. We have teams that go across 500 cities across the length and breadth of Bharat, looking at creators who are very, very special, bring them onto the platform, and we then take them through an experience of the value chain, where we have to ultimately make money. We train them, there are a couple of kids who came out of Karnal and Coimbatore now have got music label deals and done really well. So it's about creating stars and really changing lives, right? And it's a crazy business. It's just like the most expensive business on the planet. But it's a fun business. Gives me sleepless nights. So that really caters to you. And when you think about the next billion that are coming online, they really care about how. That's where public life is. And now where we're headed is we feel that we're one of the few companies, I think, or if not the only, in the content space that has always kept the creator at the heart of the ecosystem because we've always taken his or her content and put it inside. So we've always paid the creator. Now you can argue that we paid less or we paid more. We can always pay more, right? But if you think about our differentiation from any Web 2.0 platform, we get the creator, the fulcrum of the ecosystem, and we pay him off. And that's the essence of what Web 3.0 is. It's about decentralization, it's about creators making money. And now we're moving into this journey. In the next 2 weeks, we will be announcing our Web 3.0 platform. I'm very excited about that because I think for us, that's a global platform. It's not only going to serve Bharat, but it's going to serve global audiences, not just Indian diaspora, but anyone globally. And it's all built on secure, credible, and scarce, authentic experiences from a multitude of creators across different genres, music, entertainment, sports, Bollywood, art, brands that we're going to really bring into the ecosystem and see how we can grow it on.
Thanks for sharing a lot of anecdotes, very relatable the entire story. I mean, but at a company level, right, how does all of these customer insights, how frequently or what role does it play in the entire engagement and retention part, right? And where do you see companies sort of adopting this entire insights-led approach?
So I think as a company, we are very data-led. We tend to believe data is the truth and not our thoughts. We tend to get it wrong very often. Right? So I'm not saying that we are the best on the planet. We get more things wrong than we get right. But I think what we've learned over time is data is great. But I don't know how many marketers in the room exist, how many product people exist. It kind of bothers me. How much time do we spend with the user? Like observing how he or she is using our product, right? I'm a big believer in that. There's a science called ethnography, where you just sit down, you don't ask questions. You just sit down and you observe. I can sit down with Yash and shadow you for the whole day, and during the day you do several tasks, including maybe use one of my apps. And I just want to observe, why do you do, what do you do, how do you do, and that gives you the biggest insight. So I feel that while we're very good on data, I feel not just us, I feel just the product. People in general don't spend too much time keeping the customer at the center, but that's me. Please don't get offended. My product team will kill me if they hear me say this publicly. But I feel marketers, product people, we're all into the Hava and the Amazing and the jazz and the metrics and the PowerPoint. But I want to fly. I'll give you a pet example. I've picked this up with me like 100 times. I'm always fighting with it. How many of you flown from Delhi to Bombay? All of you have. Bangalore to Bombay, all of you know, right? Now let's take an example. You go to cleartrip.com, makeMyTrip.com, and you say, hey, I want to fly from Bangalore to Delhi, right? Why do you show me those 50 routes? How many of you stop over and fly? Right? No. Why do you show me these options? Right? Why can't we keep it very simple? I think that's the hardest thing. We like to include features in a new release, and we update the apps or our products. Use don't get that. Why does he or she need it? So simplicity, I think, is the key message that I would drive. That is very, very difficult to achieve. Keeping it sometimes simple, the distance to keeping it stupid is the way we think about it. So data is good, don't get me wrong. We're very data driven, but insights that come from the ground, I value them equally, if not.
Great balance. I think I want to end this with probably a transformation on your personal side. I mean, you're looking fitter than ever. What's your secret sauce? I mean, how do you stay so fit, running pretty much like three large 100 million now kind of apps?
Okay. So, my journey is really been into three phases in my career. The first 7 years where I was an engineer, let's say the next 14 years where I accidentally became CEO into it. It happened very early in the Adobe and Facebook. And then I did fun. And when I looked at myself in the mirror, I didn't like the person I was. I was unauthentic. I was pretty shallow. I think I was in love with my title. I think I was traveling more than anything else. I was giving time to the people I love, which is my family, or myself if I have. I had touched 140 kilos. Just Google my name and see old photographs that don't look like what I look like right now. And so I just decided to leave everything behind. I think I gave up the best paying job at tech at Facebook at that point, and decided to be an entrepreneur, and then we united together in our journeys, which has just been amazing. It's like another brother to me, my best friend. But more than that, I think what I decided to do is I love the word transformation. And I said, if you want to transform a business, or you want to transform anything, it starts with health. It starts with health. So I was in the gym 2 hours ago. I spent 6 to 8 per day and 2.5 hours every day. I religiously work out. I eat carefully. I sleep 8 hours. I said 6 to 8 hours. It's a myth where a lot of people in the room, especially youngsters, lots of young people in the room say, I work really hard. I hope you talk to one of your colleagues saying it was a late night. And we tend to brag about, I only got 3 hours sleep and I'm back again at work and 2 hours sleep. It's the worst thing you can do. Because contrary to popular belief, it's not the topic, we're talking about growth. Then if you talk about the human body, the way the body works is you fuel your body with food that gives you energy, right? You work out where you don't build muscle, you tear muscle. Your muscle tears, your tissue tears. And when you sleep, your muscle grows. Okay? So you could do a week of whatever workout you do. Let's say your goal is weight loss, weight gain, or muscle mass gain. Whatever your goal is. Do what I'm telling you. Spend 1 week sleeping 4 hours a day. Measure your results. The next week, sleep 8 hours a day. Measure your results. There will be a drastic difference. And so I've started studying the human body as a science. Basically, it's about numbers and metrics. And now you get all these devices where you get charts and graphs and you can track everything from your sleep to your parameters to your sugar to everything. So for me, it's just another data point. You treat it like a game. Keep it simple. And yeah, I'm happier now. I wish I'd learned entrepreneur 10 years earlier, not at 40, having the time of my life. It's also humbling because you come through bankruptcy in this journey about 3 times in 4 years. It's a very humbling experience. So yeah, that's
absolute roller coaster, right?
Absolute roller coaster. I wouldn't trade it for anything else. I think it's a very special journey. We want to create India's largest product company that can go global. That's our goal. So let's see. It's the start of long way to go. Long way to go.
Day one.
Day one. Absolutely.
Thanks a lot, Umang. Thanks for keeping it real. I think it's very insightful, and as we start building more and more products for next billion users, I'm sure a lot of these insights will come really handy for all the product and marketing folks out here. Thanks a lot for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure to host you today.